Your brain is lying to you. Every day, it quietly erases pieces of your life. Not because it's broken, but because forgetting is one of the most important things your brain can do. Think about it. You've walked into a room and suddenly had no idea why you were there. Seconds later, you walked back and the memory returned as if nothing had happened. It feels random, almost like a glitch. But neuroscientists now believe this tiny moment reveals something extraordinary about how your brain builds reality. A simple doorway may be enough to convince your brain that one event has ended and another has just begun. Which raises a much bigger question. If walking through a doorway can rewrite your memory, how much of what you remember is actually controlled by the world around you? Tonight, we'll explore one of the strangest hidden rules of the human mind and why forgetting might be one of the smartest things your brain has ever learned to do. Imagine this. You're sitting in your living room when you remember something important. Maybe you need your phone, maybe a glass of water, maybe the keys you were certain were on the kitchen counter. You stand up with complete confidence. Your goal is perfectly clear. Then you walk through the doorway, and just like that, it's gone. You stop. You look around the room, hoping something will trigger the memory. Nothing. It feels as though someone quietly reached into your mind and removed the thought. Most people blame distraction. Others blame stress. Some even joke that it's the first sign of getting older. But here's the strange part. If you walk back through the same doorway, the memory often comes back almost instantly, as if your brain left it behind in the previous room. This isn't just a funny coincidence. Psychologists have observed this effect for years, and when researchers decided to test it in controlled experiments, they discovered something unexpected. Volunteers were asked to carry ordinary objects from one room to another. The task was simple: pick up an item, walk through a doorway, place it down. Along the way, they were occasionally asked a simple question: "What are you carrying?" Or "What were you supposed to do next?" Surprisingly, people were far more likely to forget the answer after crossing a doorway than before it. Nothing else had changed. The object hadn't changed, the instructions hadn't changed, only the room had changed. Somehow, simply passing through a doorway made the memory harder to reach. Researchers gave this phenomenon a name:
the doorway effect. But the doorway itself isn't magical. It's only revealing something your brain has been doing your entire life, quietly, automatically, without you ever noticing. To understand why, we first need to understand how your brain decides where one moment ends and the next one begins. Most people imagine memory as a video camera. Every experience is recorded, stored, and played back when needed. But that's not how your brain works. Your brain is closer to a film editor than a camera. It doesn't store life as one continuous story. Instead, it constantly divides your day into smaller chapters. Psychologists call this process event segmentation. Without asking your permission, your brain is always searching for one simple question: has something changed? A new room, a different conversation, a shift in lighting, someone entering the scene, even a change in what you're trying to accomplish. The moment your brain detects one of these boundaries, it quietly closes one mental file and begins another. Most of the time, this system is incredibly useful. Imagine if every conversation, every meal, every place you've ever visited was stored as one endless stream. Finding a single memory would be like searching for one sentence inside a movie that never ends. Instead,
your brain creates chapters. It packages related moments together, giving each experience a beginning, a middle, and an end. A doorway often acts as one of those boundaries. To your brain, crossing into another room isn't just moving a few steps. It's evidence that one event has finished and another has just begun. The intention you were holding only seconds ago may already belong to the previous chapter. It hasn't disappeared, it has simply become less accessible because your brain is now prioritizing a new scene. In other words,
forgetting isn't always a failure of memory. Sometimes it's the price your brain pays to keep the rest of your life organized. But this raises an even stranger question. If your brain is constantly deciding what belongs in each chapter, who decides where those chapters begin? Here's where the story becomes even more surprising. Your brain doesn't wait until the end of the day to organize your memories. It edits them while you're still living them. Every second, billions of sensory signals compete for your attention. The sound of a fan, the weight of your clothes, a conversation in the distance, the feeling of the floor beneath your feet. If your brain tried to remember everything equally, it would be overwhelmed almost immediately. So instead, it makes thousands of tiny decisions every moment. Keep this, ignore that. This is finished, start something new. Most of these decisions happen without you ever noticing. And that's exactly why the doorway effect exists. Walking into another room sends a powerful signal, not because doors are special, but because they usually mark the beginning of a different goal. You leave the living room and enter the kitchen. Your surroundings change, your attention shifts. Your brain assumes your priorities have changed as well. For a brief moment, it lowers the priority of what came before. That's why the memory often feels impossible to reach. Then something remarkable happens. You walk back. The old room returns. The same visual cues surround you again. And suddenly, the forgotten thought reappears. It can feel almost magical. But nothing was recovered from nowhere. The memory was there all along. Your brain simply needed the right context to find it. Which means your memories may depend far less on what you know, and far more on where you are when you try to remember. And scientists have discovered that this hidden relationship between memory and place extends far beyond ordinary doorways, all the way into classrooms, hospitals, workplaces, and even the deepest memories of your life. We spend so much of our lives trying not to forget. We write reminders, we set alarms, we blame ourselves whenever a memory slips away. But perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, why do I forget? Maybe we should ask, how does my brain decide what deserves to be remembered? Because memory was never designed to preserve every moment. It was designed to help you survive the next one. Every second, your brain is making impossible choices. It cannot keep everything. So it lets go of details that no longer seem useful, making room for what comes next. Sometimes that means forgetting why you walked into the kitchen. Sometimes it means remembering a childhood smell decades later. And sometimes it means quietly protecting you from a world that contains far more information than any human mind could ever hold. In a strange way, forgetting isn't the opposite of memory. It's part of the same system. You cannot have one without the other. The next time you stop in the middle of a room, wondering why you're there, don't think of it as a failure. Think of it as a small glimpse behind the curtain. For just a second, you caught your brain in the act of editing your life.
not deleting it, editing it. Because every memory you keep exists only because thousands of others were quietly left behind. And perhaps who you are is shaped just as much by what your brain chooses to forget as by everything it allows you to remember.